Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning to all the online participants as well. My thanks go to the AIS Program Committee for accepting this presentation and allowing me to address the AFNOC community today. The presentation is focused on the role of the technical community in Internet number resource management. So, I'm Madhvi Gokool. I work for AFRINIC, the Regional Internet Registry. I currently hold the role of the Internet Resource Specialist and also the role of Policy Liaison. So, without further ado, let me ask you some questions. A show of hands, who operates a network? Okay. Who work for an organization who provides internet connectivity to its customers? Who work for a university? Who work at a bank? Who work or volunteer at an internet exchange point? Right? Who works or operates or volunteers a research and education network? Wonderful. So it looks like we have quite a few of you who operate networks or you work for an organization that has customers that connect to the internet, or you have your own corporate networks and services that you provide on the internet. Sorry, I have some drum noise in my back. So apologies if I... All right. So what are the internet number resources? Okay. These are the unique and public identifiers that are managed by an entity, right, which we call the Regional Internet Registry. If you're operating a network connected to the internet, you would know that the resources that you connect to the internet need to be unique. Otherwise, your customers will not be able to access the internet. So what are they? They are IPv4 addresses, IPv6 addresses, AS numbers. There are 5 regional internet registries in the world, and each cover a specific geographic location. Since most of you are from the African continent, we will focus on talking about internet number resource management for the African region. So the Internet Registry system has some goals, okay? One of them is uniqueness. So any organization, a university in Nigeria or a university in Ghana or a bank in Mauritius, if they are using public identifiers, they have unique identifiers, meaning that the regional internet registry has to ensure that any IP address that it allocates to its member does not overlap with an IP address that it has allocated to another entity. The second goal is aggregation. That is to prevent, to keep the routing tables shorter. Okay, sorry. Then there is registration. So each block of resource that is delegated to an organization is registered in a public database that we call the WHOIS database. And the registration needs to be accurate, meaning that if the University of Ghana received a block of IP address, that IP address is registered under its name, under the name that University of Ghana, for example, that they requested for. Conservation. Conservation here means that the delegation of the resources are made on a needs basis. Stockpiling is not encouraged. And fairness. The management of the resources is done in such a way that there is no discrimination. That a small ISP or a big network of mobile operator, for example, a small university or a large university, they get the management is done in a fair and objective manner. So how does the management of these internet number resources how is it done, right? So there are what we call resource policies, okay, that act as guidelines, or sometimes we call them rules, okay, that enable the regional internet registry, AFRINIC in this case, to manage or distribute these resources to the network operators in the region. It is done, so the resource policies are brought about in a bottom-up process, which we call the policy development process. And this process was set in place in 2004-2005 when AFRINIC was being set up in compliance with the ICP2 document, which contains the criteria for the establishment of new RIRs. The policy development process has evolved since then, and over the years we have seen an evolution of the policies that govern how network operators in the AFRINIC service region are able to benefit from the resources. I'll give you more details later on. So what benefit does the resource policies bring? Okay. It engages, so the bottom-up process, it engages the AFRINIC community in developing these guidelines. It's a transparent approach, okay, meaning, and also open. So it's open to anyone who is interested in the resource management aspect, and there's no geographical boundaries for the involvement, and it enables the organization, the RIR, to manage the resources in a consistent manner The policies are written and they are applied by the staff to all the organizations that come and request for the resources. It has also enabled a proactive management of the internet number resources. In 2008, 2009, when there was the scarcity of IPv4 was already forecasted, right? So the Afronic community, the community here, they catered for the soft landing policy, okay, in anticipation that the IPv4 pool of resources that the ORIA holds will diminish, okay, will become scarce. So they came up with a soft landing policy after some years of discussion, okay, and that last /8 was only reached in 2017. Yet the soft landing policy was already discussed, reached consensus, and was waiting for implementation in 2010, 2011. The scarcity of IPv4 in the world, okay, also prompted the community to come up with an intra-ORIA transfer policy for IPv4 addresses, meaning that organizations within the Afronic service region could transfer the resources to each other in accordance with the policy as implemented. A section of the Afronic community from the Internet Exchange Point Operators Group, they proposed a policy that enabled, that required Afronic to reserve 2 blocks of IPv4 addresses for the exchange points, as well as a block of small AS numbers to be used exclusively, to be delegated exclusively to the internet exchange points. And even in the soft landing policy, when we reached the last /8, a /12 of IPv4 resources has been carved out for and reserved for future use. But then there has also been an evolution in that policy, in that the community has agreed that if by the time Afronic reaches the last IPv4 resource that it has in its pool, and that /12 can then be brought back to the pool and also be delegated to those in need of the resources according to the phase 2 of the soft landing policy. The numbers speak for themselves. Since such policies were implemented, the community, those who are operating networks, have benefited from the policies. So the resource policies, especially for the IPv4, while the rest of the world have reached exhaustion, some RIRs do not have very little IPv4 addresses to delegate to their members. In the Afronic service region, the policy evolved so that there is a limit to the number of IPv4 addresses that can be given to a member. How many of you wanted let's say, 4,000/20 of IPv4 last year, for example, and could not get it? Okay, we have at least one person here. Someone from MTN here? MTN Ghana? Okay. The big operators who are very large members of Afrinic, they used to come and request for quite a large number of IPv4 addresses to service their customers. But at the moment, there is a limit to what they can get in each request that they submit. This is done by the management of these IPv4 resources are done according to the policy that has already been implemented. The resource policies, they also allow for Afrinic resource members to come and request for more IPv4 addresses. It's on a needs basis, of course. It's written in the policy, and there are some conditions that Afrinic staff have to apply or make the members, ensure that the members comply with before they can delegate those resources to them. In regard to IPv6 prefixes, we have had an evolution in the IPv6 policies where some resource members, now that they are implementing IPv6 on their networks, they find that what they got from Afrinic years ago is not sufficient for their needs. There's a policy that allows them to extend the size of that allocation or assignment so that they can deploy their IPv6 properly. Can I have some help with the clicker, please? So the Internet Number Resource Management is managed through resource policies. And these resource policies are developed through what we call a policy development process. Okay? It is the policy development process involves consultation and discussion within the Afrinic community, which we also call the Policy Development Working Group, okay? And all that is required is for an interested party with technical knowledge, of course, because it's about IP number resources, with an internet connection and access to a mailing list, all right, which we call the RPD mailing list, rpd@afrinic.net. Okay. The mailing list is open to the Afrinic community. We'll talk about who is part of the Afrinic community in detail later, and which involves you here as well. How many of you are subscribed to the RPD mailing list? All right. How many of you, those of you who have got resources from Afrinic, how many of you have read the policy manual? Okay. All right. So the RPD mailing list is open. All right. You don't need to be an Afrinic member. You don't need to pay a registration fee. There's nothing. There are no financial investment required for you to join it. Okay. So It is open to everyone, okay, with an internet connection. And like I said, it's transparent and open. All the discussions, all the policies that have been proposed since Afronic started in 2005 are archived. On the Afronic website, you will find the link to the mailing list archives. You will also find all the policies, what they contained, the different versions of the policies as well that reached consensus. So everything is documented. We've kept the archives for that. And should you be interested, you can also consult the archives to see how the discussions evolved from inception towards implementation, or even what happened to some of the policies, why did they not go through. So what are the key steps of the policy development process? It all starts with a problem statement. Okay? Some problem statements based on the policies that have gone through this process here, from a problem statement to the implementation. For example, the IPv4 exhaustion. Okay, so the problem was that there would be a scarcity of IPv4 addresses. Another problem statement was, we have a replacement for IPv4 addresses, so which is called IPv6, right? What shall be the guidelines that shall guide the regional internet registry in managing the pool of IPv6 resources it will get from IANA or PTI? So for the ASN, the latest problem statement was some of the resource members were having issues to get their AS numbers because the policy wanted them to be multi-home or planning to be multi-home, and yet they only had one upstream provider who was telling them, give us your public AS number and then we will connect you. All right. So there were different problem statements, but the resource policies, they start with a problem statement, which gains traction as it gets discussed, okay, within the community. And then one person, one individual, or a group of individuals, they come together and author a proposal, a policy proposal that we call it, which will have the problem statement and also the solution to the problem. So that proposal then gets submitted to the Afronic Policy Development Group, Working Group, or the Afronic Community, and where it will be discussed. It is discussed on the mailing list, okay, for a specific period of time, and then it gets discussed during a public policy meeting where there is a call for whether there is consensus within the community on this particular proposal. Should there be a consensus, the next step is last call before the policy gets submitted to the Afronic board for ratification, and upon ratification, it gets implemented by Afronic staff. So at different stages of the policy development process, we have different stakeholders. So when there's a problem, the problem is not a problem that is being faced by Afronic staff. Okay? The problem is a problem that is being experienced by the network operators, by your companies to whom you work for, your institutions to whom you work for, all right? And they are the ones who agree that there is, in fact, a problem, okay? Alain, for example, might find that there is a specific problem here. And Jean-Robert, he comes and when he looks at the problem statement, he finds, hey, I agree with you, but I think you've missed out a particular aspect from the network that I manage. I'm facing this problem as well, which is linked to this one. So there's traction within the community itself, right, around the problem statement, which they will refine, okay? And discussion, when it comes to the RPD mailing list, or where our other individuals, other people who are subscribed to that mailing list, then others may relate to the problem, or they may feel that, no, there's no problem at all. So there's a discussion, or some of them may bring in their insights and say, yes, we agree with the problem, but we would like to suggest a particular solution to it. So the proposal gains traction, discussion within the community, all right? And eventually, we have, the community has two chairs, okay? We call them chairs. They are selected by the Afronic community, who look at the discussions on the mailing list, who listen to the discussions during the public policy meeting, and then they try and determine whether there's consensus within the community on the particular proposal, okay? The ratification is done at the level of the board of directors. The board of directors of Afronic is usually elected by its resource members, okay? And then the policy comes to Afronic staff for implementation, okay? And once implemented, it goes in a manual that we call the Consolidated Policy Manual, CPM, okay? The CPM now is only one document instead of each policy that is implemented to be a single document. So we used to have multiple policies to consult. Now, all the implemented policies are consolidated in one document, which we call the CPM. So the technical community, it starts with you here, all right? You are attending the AFNOG event today, and you work for an organization who has customers or is connecting its users, its staff to the internet, and has a need of these public internet resources. You have some technical knowledge, all right? Why I say technical knowledge? Because these are technical resource policies, and it's important, and you will understand the challenges that these policies, the existing policies bring, okay, to your organization. They may be prohibitive, I don't know, but you as the user, your organization who is using these IP addresses, you represent these organizations. So you are part of the technical community, and which is a subset of the Afronic community as well. Right? And the Afronic community also consists of organizations, its resource members, okay? Because they are the ones who use these IP resources, okay? And other stakeholders as well. It is, like I said earlier, it is an open, the process is open to anyone, okay, who is interested in how the Afronic manages its internet number resources, okay? There's no geographical limitation to any of the participants. But of course, we would like to see more organizations, more people from our region crafting these resource policies as we move forward. Because the policies, they evolve, they have to evolve, and also the policy development process. The policy development process is a policy on its own in the Afronic region, okay? Which means that all these policies that we have documented in the manual, they can only be changed through a policy proposal, okay? As staff, we cannot touch that manual, all right? We document them, we document the manual based on the policies that have been implemented. So there is, I spoke about the consensus determination. So this is done by the Policy Development Working Group chairs, 2 individuals that serve staggered terms and that are selected by the Afronic community. The selection usually happens during the public policy meetings. And they aim for rough consensus, okay? Then the rough consensus is a process in itself, okay? And there's no voting. It's not a voting mechanism. So the PDWG chairs will actually look at whether all the objections or concerns in regard to the policy proposal are adequately addressed, okay, throughout the policy development process. So if 100 people are for a policy proposal and only 5 people are against, okay, it might not be a rough consensus, okay? If a minority of the participants have a valid objection, that objection must be dealt with before rough consensus can be declared, right? Similarly, if a few people are for a policy and 100 people are against, there still might be rough consensus as long as there are no valid objections that have not been addressed. Okay. So there is, for those who have been part of the policy development process at Afronic or who have attended the public policy meetings, you may have witnessed the discussions, the exchanges, okay? And we encourage you to, if you have not yet done, that you subscribe to our mailing list and start participating, all right? I spoke about the implemented policies. They are in the consolidated policy manual. Now, if you are connecting your organization's customers to the internet, this is an education phase for you. you need to know whether, or you can be the one who informs your employer, okay, about these public internet number resources, that you cannot just decide, oh, I want an ASN, and come to Afrinic and say, hi Afrinic, I need an ASN. Staff will have to comply with the policies in the consolidated policy manual, and will guide you through the process, and where you will have to justify the need for that resource, okay, because it's in accordance with an implemented policy. So you need to start educating yourself, right, on what are the implemented policies in the RIR service region, okay? And as you understand what those policies are, as you understand what are the conditions under which you can gain access to the resources, you can advise your employer, okay, as to how the process is, okay, so that you, at the time of going live with exchange points or connecting a research and education network, or that small ISP going live with its operations, connecting its customers, by that date, it has already received the resources, and the only way they can get the resources is through compliance with those policies. It has happened that policies have had to be changed, okay, based on operational factors, okay. There were some companies were informed by Afrinic that the justification, you are eligible to get resources, but the way you're planning to deploy, it happened with the IPv6 policy, that at deployment level, they would not be complying with the IPv6 policy that was implemented at that time. And fortunately, I think for them, it was very close to an Afrinic public policy meeting within the timelines prescribed by the PDP to submit a proposal. They authored a policy proposal which gained consensus at the first time it was discussed within the community and got implemented, so then that organization could get its resources, its IPv6 resource from Afrinic. And other organizations that would have faced a similar issue, they were able to benefit from that policy as well. So I encourage you to start educating yourself, go through the policies. Some stats here, we have 963 subscribers on the RPD mailing list. We have more than 2,400 members, if I'm not mistaken, and we have at least 100 people here, out of which I think 10 are subscribed to the RPD mailing list. There's still room, okay? And there's still an opportunity for you to start getting involved in the internet resource management by subscribing to the RPD mailing list. And and we only have 109 resource members, yet these policies, when they are implemented, they apply to any organization that is already a resource member, or an organization that is planning to become a resource member. So the education starts by consulting the policy manual, okay? Afrinic staff, I think for the past 10 years, if I'm not mistaken, has produced what we call the Policy Implementation Experience Report. These reports are also documented on the Afrinic website to enable the community to consult them, right? And these reports also contain areas where some ambiguities have been observed in the policy manual, okay? These could be ideas for future problem statements, because some of the ambiguities have been reported back to the community multiple times already, but they have not been addressed. So the policy implementation reports can be a source of information for problem statements that are impacting the network operators in the service region at the moment. There are volunteer roles in the policy development working group. The two chairs that serve staggered terms. We have the policy development process has a conflict resolution mechanism in it. It has an appeal committee, which is constituted from the community by people, with individuals from the community itself. And we also have opportunities for some people from the community to be policy authors. We have experienced policy authors, I would say, in our midst today. Alain Aina is one of them. Jean-Robert is another person who has authored policies. And I'm sure there are others around. I think Nico is one, is a policy author as well. So there are some experienced policy authors with whom you can collaborate if you're feeling shy, or you can be innovative and courageous, if I can use that word, and be a policy author on your own. Afrinic staff are here to help you if you request for help regarding the nomenclature of the policy proposals, etc. But you can also consult with others in the community who will gladly help you to progress with a policy proposal. Last slide. Right. So the participation in Internet Number Resource Management is done through the RPD mailing list subscription, okay? There are some guidelines for participating in discussions. One of them is you please adhere to the code of conduct, all right? Address the policy, not the individuals behind the policy. So work together to craft a policy that serves the interest of the network operators in our region. You can share your situations, whether you support the proposal or you oppose it, and also if you have some enhancements. On this, I would like to end my presentation. If you want to talk more about the policies, I'm here until the end of this week. For those who prefer to speak French, there's Bryce. Is Bryce around? There's also Bryce. So please feel free to talk to us, and we will guide you. If you don't find us here, we will be at the Afrinic booth. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madhvi. Thank you, speakers.